Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode 12 of Keep It Clean with Manny Robles. I'm your host, the Fighters Rep, along with your legendary co-host right there on your screen, shining some shoes, none other than the pride of Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, Manny Robles. How are you doing today, Coach Manny?
George, I'm doing excellent, George. Thank you for having me again on the show. I'm ready to rock and roll, ready to rumble. Let's do it again, baby.
Let's do it, Manny. And I must say, before we get started, looking super clean in your LBA Boxing Legends t-shirt. I'm feeling that color. It's the burgundy and the yellow.
What do you think?
I
Not bad,
love
huh?
it. I love it. I love it. And
Hey,
obviously, for
representing.
those that don't know, please find out that is Manny Robles' managing company. He's not only one of the best coaches on the face of the earth or in the entire universe, Manny, but you're also managing fighters now. So that's fantastic news. And you can follow Manny at Manuel Boxing right there on the bottom of your screen or at LBA Legends on Instagram. Of course, you could follow us on Fighters Rep right there at the bottom of your screen. So, Manny, as always, we've got a lot to talk about this week. More fights from Eddie Hearn are still happening. You've got a fight coming up tomorrow in Orlando, Florida.
I'm actually flying to Orlando tomorrow. The fight's on Friday.
Oh, my bad. Okay. So you're flying out there tomorrow. The
Yeah.
fight's on Friday. We're also going to be talking a little bit about Lomachenko, Manny. Willing to accept a little bit less money to make the Teofimo fight happen. And we also wanted to touch on some other things, including more belts, more opportunities, more sanctioning bodies.
Yes.
Is that was something you wanted to touch on in particular? Am I right?
Yeah, I felt like we had some unfinished, we left an unfinished conversation last week when we were touching on the subject of the sanctioning bodies in boxing.
Right.
So I think I felt like there was still some stuff out there that was unsaid, and it's nice to let the people out there know what the sanctioning bodies stand for and why they're necessary in boxing. These belts, these titles are necessary for boxers to move up in the rankings.
Definitely something I'd be glad to talk about as well, Manny. But first and foremost, Manny, tomorrow you've got Brandon Valdez, or rather you're flying out for Brandon Valdez for
Mhm.
Friday's fight. Tell me a little bit about Brandon Valdez and what's going on with that.
Well, Brandon Valdez is a 122-pound boxer, super bantamweight. He's fighting for the WBO Latino belt. Another belt that's why I feel it's important to educate our audience and let them know what these belts are, the meaning of these belts is for. He's fighting for the WBO Latino belt, and he's very excited about it. He's extremely ready and focused and willing to put his everything on the line to make sure he comes back home with that belt.
And who is he facing, Manny? What do you know about the opponent?
He's fighting a kid. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name right off the top of my head, but he's fighting a kid from Mexico. And as you know, these kids that come from Mexico, they're warriors. They're willing to put everything on the line, give excitement, give good fights, and I'm sure this will not be the exception. This is going to be a great fight on Telemundo Friday night. Don't miss it. We worked extremely hard for this fight, and we hope to come back with that belt.
Absolutely, and a little bit about Brandon Valdez, Manny. He's of Colombian descent. Is that right?
Yes, he is. He's from Colombia, born and raised in Colombia. I've been working with him for probably about 4 years now, and I watched them develop, watched them grow, and I'm very excited to see his growth and to see where he's at today. And I believe that he's definitely going to be someone to reckon with in the future. And this is only the starting point. Like I said, if he's fighting for the WBO Latino, Latino belt, and this is a great opportunity for him to showcase himself on, first of all, on TV on Telemundo. Hopefully, would win that belt and get him in the rankings, in the possibly top 10, top 15 in the world. God willing, if we come back with that belt, it's going to be important for his career, for him to move forward.
That sounds awesome, Manny. It looks like he's actually going to be taking on a Ricardo Espinosa.
That's his name, Ricardo Espinosa.
And it's going to be in Kissimmee, Florida, which, if you don't know, is pretty close to Disney World, my home state of Florida. And as you can see, Manny, I'm rocking the Miami Dolphins t-shirt today, my brother.
I don't know, George. I don't know.
Manny,
you gotta be rocking that Raider jersey, that Raider shirt right now, Raider Nation.
Manny, I cannot support a team from Las Vegas, brother. I just can't do it.
Well, look, I understand. I know where this is going, but let's all remember that the Raiders once played in LA.
You're right.
I grew up being a Raider fan, and I'm sticking with my Raiders, man. They went to Oakland, now they're leaving to Vegas. I'm going to stick with my Raiders. I'm going to have them a little closer to home, right off the 15 freeway. And
that's right. You're not far. You're not far, Manny.
I'm a ride or die Raider fan, man. I loyalty to the very end.
It means everything. Yeah, it means everything. No, I totally understand. And so, Manny, this fight is going to be on, it looks like Telemundo Deportes, so the Telemundo Sports, I guess.
That's right.
And it's going to be at the Osceola Heritage Park, again in Kissimmee, Florida, Friday, August 14th. That's this Friday. And it's for the WBO Youth Super, it says Super Gallo title. Does that sound accurate?
Super Gallo, Super Bantamweight.
Got you. Okay, fantastic. So, I'm expecting big things from Brandon, Manny. I'm expecting big things from Brandon.
Me too. We're excited, and with the hopes of coming back with that belt.
Very cool. And, if you guys haven't already, definitely give Brandon a follow, Manny. I see him all the time posting on Instagram. His Instagram is actually Brandon Valdez _26_05. Very explosive, very athletic kid, Manny, from what I've seen.
Yeah. A lot of people mention and tell me that he looks a lot like Yuriorkis Gamboa from Cuba.
He does.
He does. Like him, yeah.
He does, but I mean, I feel like he may be. Is he a little bit longer than Yuriorkis Gamboa was?
I think he's taller than Yuriorkis, obviously at a smaller weight class, but yes, taller. Yuriorkis is a little guy. He's short. He's stocky. He's big, but he's short.
For sure, and a great fighter in his prime. I remember him. I remember him for that fight with Crawford. I felt like he gave Crawford a pretty good fight when they fought.
Yes, sir. And by the way, I'd like to send a shout out to Black House Boxing and Cesar Garcia. He's the manager of Brandon Valdez, and obviously he's coming along on a trip with us to Florida, and he's doing a good job great job by Brandon. He got him this opportunity to fight for the belt. So, Caesar, you're watching the show. What's up, my bro, my man?
Shout out, Caesar. Much appreciated. And good luck with Brandon on Friday to the both of you, man. You and Caesar. We've got Nick Diaz, YRT, and David Castellanos in the chat. Appreciate you guys joining us. David Castellanos says, me saludas a tu hijo. También a Estrellita.
La Estrellita. Yeah, for sure. Y a mi hijo, Manny.
And for those that don't know, Estrellita, that's your right-hand man, right, man?
Yeah, be my assistant coach, right-hand man. And, he's been with me from the start, from the get-go, and that's the man I count on, get things done when I'm not around. And, he's my right-hand man. That says it all. Yeah.
Well, big shout out to Estrellita, too. A great guy, great coach from what I've seen. Manny, so let's get on to the first topic here, Manny. I'm reading today on the news, Manny, that Vasyl Lomachenko is willing to take a pay cut, Manny. He's willing to take a pay cut to fight the very dangerous Honduran American in Teofimo Lopez.
Wow.
The article, I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Manny, because I was curious about this, and obviously I'm gonna want to know what you think about the fight. But the article seems to be hinting at the fact, and I don't really agree with this too much, but I can
Okay.
kind of see what they're saying, that Lomachenko hasn't had that big marquee fight yet, and that this is it, and that's kind of the reason why he's decided to take this fight and accept the lower pay. What do you think about
Say
that?
something like that. Who would say something like that?
You know
Who
what,
says
Manny?
that? Wow. Come on. What is Gary? What was Gary Russell then? What
Right,
was Jorge Linares?
right. What
You
was
know.
Guillermo Rigondeaux?
What was Guillermo Rigondeaux? What was Luke Campbell when he
Ooh,
was on? Back in his own backyard.
right. Nicholas
Yeah.
Walters.
Nicholas Walters, undefeated Nicholas Walters. What was that then?
Right, yeah, I don't know
You
why they.
know.
I honestly, I don't know why they would say that. I mean,
And he fought, Orlando Salido. Obviously, when Orlando was a world champion, we all understand this was, he lost to Salido, but he fought him in his second professional fight. You know,
which is
a
outrageous.
seasoned world champion, a seasoned fighter like Orlando Salido, where he learned a great deal. Like I said, sometimes you learn more from your defeats than you do from your wins, and that was a great learning experience for Lomachenko, and he's never looked back ever since.
You
Look at
know,
everything he's been able to accomplish: 126, 130, and now 135.
it's incredible. And Manny,
Three division world champion.
absolutely. And Manny, Lomachenko has, you know, I guess figuratively speaking, balls of steel to step in there with a guy
Absolutely.
like Salido in his second fight. But he also needed balls of steel in that fight because he got hit low so many times, my brother.
Yeah, you remember that. We all remember that. Yeah, whatever. Welcome to the pros, my friend. Welcome to the pros.
Especially against a guy like Salido. That guy was
Yeah,
not playing around
exactly.
ever, man.
Never. He never fought a style like that in a fighter. Coming from all the amateur pedigree that he had, Lomachenko, two-time Olympic champion, world champion, European champion. I don't think he ever faced a fighter in the amateurs like he faced Salido that night when he fought for the world title. I don't think he ever expected that. So all power to Salido. Salido is one of my favorite fighters, one of the fighter that I admire, a fighter that I think is gonna definitely go down in history as one of the best Mexican fighters ever. A fighter that never gave up, that never looked back, that took on the toughest challenges, and he beat Lomachenko, the only man to do it.
Yep. Manny, you know what? I don't know why this popped into my head, but whenever I think of Orlando Salido, I think of another Mexican fighter that, for me stylistically resembles him so much. And
Who's that?
tell me if you agree with this.
Yeah.
Jesus Soto Caras. I don't know why I
Mhm.
think of that guy.
I think I can sit here and mention to you more than a couple of fighters that fought like Salido, similar styles, and you can compare that to the typical Mexican fighting style. Come forward and win at all costs. And
Yeah.
back in the day when I was growing up, I seen so many fighters with that are similar to Salido. I can mention to you. Uh, oh man, I can't think of the name right now, but Victor Rabanales,
Hmm.
another great Mexican fighter and former world champion that fought a lot like Salido. Victor Rabanales was a warrior, come forward fighter, had a hell of a chin. That not a great defense, but man, his will to win. Uh, uh, was outstanding. And he became a world champion despite the odds.
Yeah.
But he did it.
I felt like,
Look at Perro Angulo's another
oh
similar style.
man.
Come
Oh
forward, you
man.
know what I mean? Perro Angulo, yeah. And so many others.
I loved Perro Angulo, Manny. I loved watching that guy fight. You know who else was kind of in that same vein? At least for me. I mean, maybe you have a different viewpoint
Yeah.
is Jorge Arce. I think it was Arce, El Travieso
El
Arce.
Travieso. There you go. You can compare that style to Salidos. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jorge El
yeah,
Travieso Arce
yeah.
was a great technician, but he was definitely a warrior. A fighter that after the fight you could tell he was. If you didn't know he was a fighter, if you came across him in the airport and the following days, you knew he was in a fight.
For sure, for sure, for
You
sure.
know what happened to this guy? He got ran. People might have thought he got ran over, but he was actually in a boxing match.
Right, right, right. So yeah, I
Right?
mean, part of me, I think for the most part, I disagree with that article, kind of saying that Lomachenko's taking this fight because it's like the big money, the big time fight for him. That's gonna kind
Mm-hmm.
of leave a legacy for him. But I kind of understand. I kind of understand what the person's saying, Manny, because the guys we named, even though like for guys like us that are hardcore fans and understand the game and love the game,
Uh-huh.
guys like Linares, guys like Gary Russell Jr., guys like Guillermo Rigondeaux. I mean, these guys are incredible fighters, right? But
Yes, sir.
I feel like none of those guys are kind of trending in pop
Mm-hmm.
culture or buzzing in pop culture the way a guy like Teofimo Lopez is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Oh man, Teofimo is definitely a different breed type of fighter. I believe he's definitely one of the best fighters at 135, a lightweight division, willing to fight Lomachenko. You don't see any other fighters stepping up to the plate,
Right.
willing to fight Lomachenko. But then on the other hand, look at Lomachenko willing to take a pay cut. That tells you a lot about his confidence.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what that tells me. This guy's confident enough to go in and fight someone like Teofimo and said, "I'll take a pay cut." That's how sure he is of himself about beating Teofimo. That he's willing to take a pay cut.
Right. 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 And it's probably also pretty reasonable. I think he's showing how reasonable he is to be taking a pay cut right now during this entire pandemic. You know what I mean, man?
Hmm. Yeah, some other fighters ought to be learning from Lomachenko, right?
That's kind
I'm not
of
going to mention any names.
that's kind of what I was hinting at, because we've been talking about this the past few weeks.
Right?
You're not going to mention any names. I'm going to mention some names. Ryan Garcia might want to pull a page out of Lomachenko's book here
you know?
and just kind of accept and realize that you can't always get what you want when there's a pandemic going on. Am I right, man?
Yep. That's what the Rolling Stones used to say, right? You can't get what you want, but you get what you need.
Oh my goodness! And David Castellanos is in here. By the way, guys, appreciate you guys being in here. You guys can leave any comments or questions in the chat, and I'll send them over to Manny at the end of the show for sure. But he's actually saying Israel Vasquez to me was the image of a true
There you
Mexican
go.
warrior.
I worked with Israel Vasquez. What do you know?
Wow! Wow!
Yeah, my dad and I, we trained Israel Vasquez when he first came to America from Mexico. Actually, both Israel Vasquez and Martin Castillo both lived in my house for the first 2 years when they came to the
Wow,
United
man.
States.
Wow.
For the
Wow.
first,
Wow.
first 2 years here in America, they lived under my roof. And obviously, my dad and I worked with these kids, and they both became world champions, man. That tells you a lot about fighters that come from Mexico with chasing their dreams, their goals and their dreams of one day becoming world champions, leaving everything behind, their families, their wife and kids, and so forth and so on, and willing to put everything at risk, to come to America looking for an opportunity, and these kids did both just that, and they both became world champions. It's incredible, incredible.
Right. And now Eric Morales just popped into my head now, Manny, too. What an animal that guy was, man.
Yeah, Eddie Morales, but Eddie Morales is a technician.
Right,
Eddie
right.
Morales, yeah, he's a warrior, but he could box.
Right.
And I believe he was a better technician than Israel Vasquez was. Look at Rafael Marquez when he
Right.
fought Israel.
Right.
Technician, but it was Israel's willingness to win, to put it all on the line, and at any cost. And not the trilogy. They only fought not 3 but 4 times versus Rafael Marquez.
Wow.
And all 4 fights were wars, man. They went at it toe to toe, and they will always remember Israel Vasquez for that. He beat Cholo Larios for the world title, WBC world title as well. He beat Rafael Marquez for the world title. So at 122 super bantamweight, and Israel Vasquez is a great friend of mine. I have some great stories on Israel Vasquez. When again, like I said, when he first came to the United States and with nothing, nothing but a bag full of dreams, backpack full of dreams,
Right,
and
right.
look at him now. Look, he's made history, and he's definitely gonna. Is he in the Hall of Fame? I'm not sure, but he definitely deserves to be.
Manny, we've got so many things we always want to, talk about. We could barely stay on focus when I'm talking to you. I love asking you about all these peripheral things, but as far as the Lomachenko Teofimo fight,
Yep.
what do you expect from that fight?
I expect a great fight. I expect for I feel that Teofimo has to be the one to adjust to Lomachenko style. I think Lomachenko can adapt to any style. I think he's seen it all. Considering his background in the amateurs and the World Series of Boxing, and now as a pro. So I believe Teofimo definitely has to be the one to adjust. He doesn't have the experience that Lomachenko has, but he's young, he's hungry, he's fast, he's strong. He's proven that, and at the same time, Lomachenko cannot go to sleep on Teofimo. Teofimo is young, like I said. He's a young lion, and he's not scared. He's willing to fight Lomachenko today when he doesn't have to.
Right, right, right.
Doesn't have to.
The other thing for me, Manny, is I look back at that Jorge Linares fight, right? And I think Linares, as far as speed, he's got great speed. And I think Teofimo has great speed. I feel like
Hmm.
Linares kind of throws in combinations more
Yeah.
than Teofimo does.
Yeah.
But that one, I believe it was a cross, went right down the pipe and was able to catch Lomachenko. You know what I mean? And I think about that, and I think about the
I think Lomachenko got a little bit lazy in that fight. He was dominating the fight, so to speak.
yeah.
The fight was close, but yeah, he was dominating, and he went to sleep for a few seconds, and Linares caught him with a nice right hand to the chin and hit the deck.
I mean, but could you imagine, a guy like with the power of Teofimo Lopez? I mean, landing a
Mm.
clean shot.
Yep,
I think it becomes
yep.
a
You can't go to sleep on him. That's what I said earlier. You
right,
can't go to
right,
sleep. And Teofimo can knock you out with one punch. And that and Lomachenko doesn't have that type of power.
right.
He's a volume puncher. He'll drive you crazy and eventually take you out. But definitely he doesn't carry the that type of power that Teofimo does. And as far as power is concerned, Teofimo definitely has the advantage.
Yeah, and I think he's probably going to be, I mean, the bigger guy for sure in there as
Yep,
well.
yep, definitely the bigger
Um,
guy.
and knockout power, I think, in both hands, man. I think I've seen him lay people out with
Mm-hmm.
both hands.
Yeah, he's explosive, man. Explosive. If he pulls it off, let me tell you, man, he'll definitely be the king of the lightweights,
Right,
without question.
right, right. So that's going to be a fantastic fight. Something I'm really looking forward to. Manny, I also heard through the grapevine today, or just
Yep.
actually just looking through the news articles online, I saw Jorge Linares giving some opinions, and I wanted to ask you about the opinions
Okay.
that he was giving. Jorge Linares, man, he was saying that he felt like Lomachenko, despite being just 32 years of age, was
Hmm.
was on the decline, was old, and
Wow.
yeah, and I think he says he's not the same guy that I fought. When he's referring to Lomachenko, he's saying he's no longer the guy that I fought. He's declined. And the person who created the article, or perhaps it was Jorge Linares himself, was saying that they believe that that lengthy amateur career and all this fighting
Hmm.
throughout his whole life is kind of, it does put a lot of
Out
miles on the
of
odometer. What do you think about
Oh,
that, man?
I agree 100%. That's why he wanted to become a world champion ASAP. He wanted to fight for the world title in his professional debut, and the commission did not allow that. They
Right.
said you got to have at least one pro fight before he can fight for a world title, and they came back and bit him in the ass because he fought Salido. But but yeah, I agree. He's been suffering through different. He's been going through different injuries in the last couple of fights, as you know, with his hands, and his hands have been taking a beating. And another thing that people don't know is in the amateur system, you're not able to wrap the fighter's hands like you would in the pros.
Hmm.
You know, all you get is a like freaking 5 feet of a Velcro wrapped around your hands, and then your hands take a beating, man. They take a beating, and too many fights too often, and they don't protect their hands the way they should.
Wow.
So
Okay. Okay.
that's one thing that AIBA has to work on, definitely, is thinking about protecting the fighters' tools, their hands,
Right. Right.
to prolong their careers. So that's one thing Lomachenko's been suffering from. And yeah, he's getting older, definitely. And I've said this in the past. I was asked, who do you think can beat Lomachenko? And I said this: the only person that can beat Lomachenko is himself. Lomachenko. He's the only person that can beat Lomachenko is himself, because Father Time. The clock keeps on ticking, man. He's not getting any younger. So obviously, with that said, you tend to obviously lose that speed, lose that what do you call it?
The reflexes. Right.
Reflexes,
Right.
the reflexes, and so forth. So again, we'll have yet to see which Lomachenko shows up. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
nonetheless, I still give Teofimo a lot of credit for willing to fight Lomachenko today, to be the man to perhaps that can step in that ring and beat Lomachenko. That would be a sight to see, man. Lomachenko, again, one of the best fighters in the world today, versus who knows, but maybe if he gets through Lomachenko, definitely be pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world.
No, I mean, absolutely. I think, if he does win that fight, man, he absolutely has a case at being, one of the best pound for pound for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
After especially a devastating knockout win over Richard Comey, a very tough guy,
Uh-huh.
and then and then to scalp Lomachenko after that it would be a nice scalp for his career, I think.
Hmm.
I
Definitely.
think Manny, I think this is the kind of fight that could propel Teofimo
Whew.
to the next level if he wins it, man, big time.
Yeah, that's the fight that you mentioned, that someone said you read this someplace, as you said earlier. Someone said that Teofimo hasn't had that fight.
Right,
I mean, I'm
right,
sorry, Lomachenko hasn't had that big fight,
right,
and
right.
we both disagree. We feel that he has.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, this is Teofimo's fight.
Yep, yep.
That this is Teofimo's big fight. You know what I mean? Where if he beats Lomachenko, ooh, forget about it.
Oh my God.
Forget about it. Oh my God is the word. That's right.
Manny, and I am chomping at the bit to see that fight. I wanted to ask you,
Right.
Manny. I want to
Yes.
go into the mind of one of the greatest coaches to ever live, Manny Robles. Let's say,
Thank you.
Manny, let's say Teofimo calls you up, says, Manny, I'm coming to train.
Oh man.
I want LBA
Wow.
in my
Be awesome.
corner. I want Manny Robles in
Be
my
awesome.
corner.
Be cool.
What is
Be good.
what is the strategy, Manny? What is the
What is
strategy?
the strategy? The strategy. It's very. I always feel like sparring is key,
Yeah,
right? So in this case, you would have to find a southpaw with the characteristics of a Lomachenko, but that would be extremely. It's going to be extremely difficult to find the right sparring partner, especially someone like Lomachenko. So you got to go out there and you got to find that sparring that come close to what Lomachenko is. You
right.
know what I mean? I think that's key, and obviously for the coach to be able to work from the southpaw stands, to kind of more or less come in with a good game plan versus Lomachenko, be able to switch and work combinations from the southpaw stance, and obviously break down Lomachenko and find his weaknesses. I don't think there's any perfect fighter out there. Probably Lomachenko comes as close to being perfect, But definitely, that would be key. The sparring, and obviously, again, as I said, being able to switch from the southpaw stance from a coach's perspective to be able to break down and dissect a fighter like Lomachenko.
What do you see in Lomachenko, Manny, that you would try to take advantage of as a coach? Do you see anything there?
Maybe take him into the later rounds, smother him, get in close, smother him, make it a tough fight. But then, you know, Teofimo is also the technician. He's a smart cat. He's definitely someone that comes at you from different angles. And you said it. He's got power in both hands. So again, Lomachenko cannot go to sleep on Teofimo. He can't.
Got you, got you. So you're kind of hinting at the Orlando Salido route, kind of rough him
No,
up.
no, not at all. Because you're talking about two different fighters.
Right, right, right.
So Teofimo fights nothing like Orlando Salido.
Right, right.
Nothing like him. He's a technician again. He's he's young, he's hungry, he's fast, he's got power in both hands. I think he's got to test that chin early. I think he's got to go in there and make it a fight.
Yeah.
Get in close and work that body, try to break him down, but you can't hit what you can't see, man. And Lomachenko's look at Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux is supposed to be one of the
Right.
freaking beasts, and I was fortunate enough to be at that fight in New York City at the theater, at the MGM Grand Theater. Anyway, and man, Lomachenko put a number on Rigondeaux. Yeah, Lomachenko was a bigger man, yes, but nonetheless, man, I mean, he made that fight look so easy. He won every round. He played with.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
He quit. He quit in the stool, man. He, throwing the towel, man. I can't beat this guy. The same as
Nicholas Walters did that
Nicholas
too.
Walters, thank you. Another fighter that quit in the stool.
Yeah.
He says, you know what, man, throw in the towel, I'm done. And he makes you quit. Lomachenko makes you quit.
Manny, why do you think guys are quitting against Lomachenko when those situations happen? Do you think it was the mental aspect or was it the physical?
They can't. It's mental because they can't get to him.
Yeah.
You can't hit what you can't see, man. He's in one place 1 second, and that day he's in another place another second. He fights you from different angles. He's got tremendous footwork. He's got tremendous ring generalship, and he just, he's a fighter that if he's embarrassing you from the get go. He's making you look bad. He's embarrassing you from the get. You got no alternative but to throw in the towel. Maybe go the distance, but these guys figure for what? I can't hit this guy. Right. I can't get to this guy. Some fighters have had better luck. We mentioned Jorge Linares and Luke Campbell. Had a good fight versus Lomachenko.
Yeah,
a decent fight. Did they win? No, definitely not. But Linares got stopped with a body shot by Lomachenko of all punches. Right, a body shot, and like I said, Lomachenko's a real deal, man.
He is a real deal, Manny. Would you say? I mean, I want to ask you because obviously you've been around so many fighters, Manny. Is he the best person you've seen in person, or one of the best people you've seen in person?
Probably one of the best. Yeah, I mean, you can't forget. I mean, I've seen Pernell Whitaker.
Right. That's why I wanted to ask you. You've seen Whitaker, you've seen Roy Jones Jr. as well,
Roy
right?
Jones Jr. versus Julio Gonzalez, obviously versus Reggie Johnson.
Right.
We spoke about Reggie last week when I worked the corner with Reggie, and we didn't win a single round, man.
I mean,
unanimous decision, lost to Roy Jones Roy Jones was in his prime, and the only fighter that could beat Roy Jones was Roy Jones himself.
Right, right,
You know,
right.
Father Time caught up to him, and you know he suffered a few losses along the way. But at one point, he was unbeatable, man. Just like Pernell Whitaker was.
Right,
You
right,
know, it's
right.
just like, I mean, incredible. Look, we talk about fighters that I've been to so many fights. Mayweather versus Canelo. You know,
Wow, man.
Mayweather was an incredible. What he did that night to Canelo was, man. He just ran circles on Canelo, but they make Canelo a better fighter.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I always tell people when they ask me, kind of without thinking about it too much. I mean, I probably should think about it a little bit more, but I always tell people the best guy I think I've seen, because his career is over and I look back on his career, I always like to say Floyd Mayweather. I like
Mm.
to say Floyd Mayweather because I love
Yeah.
I love defense, man. I love
Yeah. Of
defense.
course. Yep.
Um,
So
and
do I.
like you
You
told me,
got
I think you told me defense wins championships. I think you told
absolutely.
me that.
Yes, sir. You gotta be a boxing purist to be able to appreciate fighters like Mayweather, fighters like Pernell Whitaker. That they're the essence of boxing.
Yeah.
Poetry in motion.
Whitaker was
That's
incredible as well. And but Manny, I feel like Lomachenko is like a new breed, man. It's just I've rarely seen anybody be able. Maybe it's just the way he does it. It's so different.
Yep. Yeah, no, that too. I mean, he fights. He's got great ring generalship, great defensive fighter, but he also puts on a show. He's the type of fighter that go out there and bang with his opponents, and stand from 1 foot away and make you miss in the fashion that he does and make you pay. I mean, it's just he's a great fighter, and we're lucky, we're fortunate to be able to see fighters today live, like fighters like Lomachenko, again in the past, Floyd Mayweather, and Pernell Whitaker, Sugar Ray Leonard. That's another one, another incredible fighter. Salvador Sanchez,
Oh
Mexican fighter,
man.
that was way ahead of his time, and he's just incredible fighters, man.
Manny, the best people, I mean, if you had like a top five list, the best people you've ever seen in person, right in front of you fighting, who would you?
Too many, too many. I've been to so many fights that
Yeah.
I would have to sit back and think and do some thinking and some thorough thinking, really, and think about all the great fights I've been able to attend. I have a great friend, a very, very good friend of mine. I was just talking to him a couple of days ago. Albert Tweedybird Davila from Pomona, California, another California world champion. Good friend. He was a great friend of my dad's, and he's a great friend of mine. And he just hit me up the other day, and we were talking about and reminiscing about all old times. And when I was a kid, my dad took me to the Olympic Auditorium to watch a fight for the WBC. I believe is the super bantamweight title. Albert Tweety Bird Davila versus Kiko Vejines from Guadalajara.
Hmm.
And that place back in the day, man, you had to attend. You had to attend
Yeah. Yeah.
the fights. You weren't not like today where you can watch the fights on TV. And back then you had to be there. And I was able to witness a great fight in Albert Davila, where Albert Davila was very close fight. Fight could have gone either way, but in the last round, Albert Davila knocked out Kiko Vejines in the very last round, and unfortunately, Kiko Kiko lost his life in that fight.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, man,
Wow.
I'll never forget that. It's something that I'll ever, as a kid, you
Right.
don't
Right.
forget. And to be there and to got knocked out, they took him out on a stretcher, and the very next day, my dad read the newspaper, and that's the only way you could get your news back then, by
Damn.
reading La Opinion. You know, you ever heard of opinion? That's
Yeah.
how old I am, but that's how far I take it.
Oh my
And
God.
that's how we get. This is the way we used to get our news, our boxing news. This is how way we stay informed is by reading opinion with Ramiro Gonzalez that works for Golden Boy Promotions and Fernando Paramo. You know, two great historians, boxing historians, and writers that that work for La Opinion. And anyway, the next day, my dad gets up, he buys the newspaper, and reading the paper, and finds out that Kiko Bejinos had lost his life, in a hospital bed, but it was because of the accumulation of punches that he suffered versus Davila. We didn't know Albert Davila at the time, but we met him years later. We got a chance to meet him. My dad and him worked together at the May Boxing Gym in LA, and I met him then, and we became good friends ever since. I mean, it's been probably uh, about 25, 30 years, man, since then.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
great friend, great friend. I've never asked him about that fight, by the way, that because I can imagine how Albert must feel about that as well.
Yeah.
Being in a fight like that and having someone lose his life to boxing. I know no fighter ever wants to. You go in that ring to, put it on the line, but at the same time, you want both fighters to come out healthy and be able to go home to their families. And unfortunately, again, Kiko Behin has lost his life.
That's horrible. May you rest in peace, Manny. You bring that up. I actually, a while back, I was trying to interview Sergey Kovalev back when I was living in South Florida. He's
Mm-hmm.
another person who unfortunately actually killed somebody after fighting them. And I remember reaching out to him and him telling me, "You can talk to me about anything, but don't talk to me about him." And
Yeah,
I no problem. I totally respect
yeah.
you not wanting to talk about that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually involved in a fight too. One of my fighters was one of my boxers, Rustam Nugayev, back at the Orleans Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. He fought a kid from Mexico. It's his first time coming to the United States to fight. They used to call him El Bombero. And stopped him, beat him by knockout. And at the end of the fight, the kid was sitting in a stool. He was completely drained, and they took him back to the dressing room, and he collapsed. And later that night, he passed away. And again, the following day, the manager and I, we got up, for coffee, whatever, in the hotel, and we met up with Jimmy Montoya, a great matchmaker, one of the best matchmakers in boxing. Uh, a lot of people may know who Jimmy Montoya is, but if you know, then you know boxing.
Yeah.
He gave us the news that Bombero had passed away, and it was devastating. And
Oh my
I
God.
was experienced that myself, so you can just imagine how we felt, and we were devastated. And the kid that had never, again, chasing a dream, coming to America, looking to a way to take care of their families, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and again, and he came out here for the first time ever, and he just came and lost his life. Never had to go home in the coffin.
Wow, man, that's pretty
Yeah,
horrible.
that's why
Um,
when I hear people talk shit about fighters and oh, he's this and he's that, man, you don't understand. People don't understand what fighters put themselves through sometimes, and all it is like it's just trying to take care of their families, man. They're trying
right.
to,
Right.
they're all trying to become world champions, and they're all chasing a dream, but it comes with a price, a high price.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get it, man. I mean, as a promoter myself, I try my best to make things as simple and as convenient as possible for these kids. I know I've seen what they put themselves through. I don't know because I never trained for a fight.
Hmm.
I just trained to kind of stay in shape, but I see what they go through, and I really do my best to kind of make things as easy as possible for them on every front. And always, absolutely, have to have a physician and an ambulance and everything else. And I actually, Manny, believe it or not, So we have an insurance minimum as promoters. You know that. Like, there's a certain minimum amount of coverage you need for the fighters in case they get hurt. I actually take it upon myself to get a little bit of a higher coverage.
Awesome.
But yeah, because I know a lot of these kids, Manny, they don't have insurance a lot of times. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean?
Yes, sir. No, that's great. That's great of you to do that. No, absolutely. I mean, but listen, on a lighter note,
Yeah.
you asked me what great fights I've been able to, great fighters, or what fights I've been able to attend. And a fight that comes to mind right now was uh, Julio Cesar Chavez versus Mayweather, Roger Mayweather, at the Olympic Auditorium.
Ooh.
Packed. I mean, no, at the Forum. I'm sorry, at the Great Western Forum in Inglewood.
Was this the first time they fought or the
The
second
second
time?
time, the second time they fought, where Roger Mayweather quit in the stool too. He said, "That's it, I'm done."
Man.
Wow, what a fight that was, man! What a fight! I mean, that place was rocking. It was packed, and people were just like, "Viva Mexico, Mexico, Mexico!" Oh man, it was great. I miss them
How
days.
many
I
how
miss
many
them definitely.
people were at that event, Manny?
It was packed, man. It was packed, completely full, completely packed, and that was a great fight. And so many different. I've seen Marcos Villasana, Guadalupe Pintor. Some of the
Yeah.
great. Asuma Nelson.
Wow. Wow.
Uh, you know, Chavez, of
Yeah.
course. Very fortunate to lucky and to be in some of his fights, Chavez and Oscar de la Hoya. Oscar de la Hoya, and when he fought, when he won his first world title versus Jimmy Brito at the Olympic Auditorium. Oscar de la Hoya versus Chicanito Hernandez, another great champion, Chicanito. May he rest in peace. And his brother Rudy Hernandez he's my buddy, my homie. Uh, you know, uh, uh, I mean, Chicanito was an incredible fighter
Yeah.
himself. He beat Asuma Nelson. He fought Oscar, fought the best. He lost to Mayweather. It was Mayweather's first world title. When he beat Chicanito at 130 pounds. Ooh, so
Yeah.
many different fights. Being able to be there to see fighters like Roy Jones.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right. Well, Manny, I mean, we would definitely have to have you, obviously with all the guys you've seen, you said you'd need time to think of like a top five.
Barrera versus Morales. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Forget it. I'll give you one. Barrera, Marco Antonio
Yeah.
Barrera versus Nasim Hamed at the MGM.
Oh,
I was
man.
I was there for that fight, man.
Manny, why
Ooh, man.
Manny, why you got to bring up the fight where the Arab guy gets beat up, Manny?
Wow. Yeah, Barrera versus Nasim Hamed.
Barrera was a
Manny
beast,
Pac,
man.
Manny Pacquiao versus Eddie Morales.
Wow.
I've seen Manny Pacquiao in Australia when he lost to Jeff Horn. I was man that memorable, man, at the rugby
Why were you
stadium.
there, Manny? Why were you at that
I
event?
was there for Conlon, Michael Conlon. I was
Oh,
working with Michael
okay,
Conlon. He fought
okay,
on the
okay,
undercard.
okay.
Wow, man, memorable, memorable. But I've been extremely lucky. I've been extremely fortunate to have been in so many different fights and seen so many great champions. I'm blessed, man. I have the best job. I feel like I have the best job in the world.
Good on you, man. I kind of feel the same way, to be honest with you, about this promoting thing. That's why this COVID thing is driving me absolutely insane right now.
That was crazy, yeah.
Manny, so like I was saying, obviously it's going to be a little bit of homework for you to come up with a list, but could you give me the name of somebody you saw in person that was great, but that, people don't often think about that much, or maybe don't give him the credit that you
Yeah,
think he
I'll
deserves?
give you one. I'll give you a fighters. Azabache Martinez from Guadalajara. He was a great fighter, but he was never able to become a world champion. He was when he fought Chavez at the Olympic Auditorium, and nobody knew who Chavez was at the time. Chavez who?
Yeah.
And he came from Sinaloa to LA to fight for his first world title versus Asabache Martinez. And Asabache Martinez was a favorite. and, and, and Chavez just destroyed El Asabache
Oh
Martinez.
man.
I believe he stopped him in the eighth round. He just beat up on him, and after that, everyone knew who Julio Cesar Chavez was.
Right.
And from then on, he just became a superstar. But Sabache was definitely a fighter that deserved to be a world champion, and he came up short. He also lost to Roger Mayweather. I was there for that fight at the Olympic, and so many different fighters that I seen. With time, obviously, there's been a lot of fighters out there that have come short winning a title. Another fighter that Johnny Tapia, Mi Vida Loca,
Oh yeah.
was able
Yeah.
to fight in New Mexico. Him and who is it? What is it? And his arch rival from New Mexico as well. And I forget his name.
No.
But another great. He fought him actually, and Johnny won. Maybe somebody in the audience might remember who this was.
I'll have to look it up.
Also from New Mexico. So many. Forget about it, George. I mean,
Yeah.
too many fights. But you said a great fighter that I feel that should have been a world champion and came up short. Is definitely Martin Lasabache Martinez.
Yeah. Or, just somebody that you felt like didn't get the recognition. I mean, even if they were world champion, but somebody that you saw didn't get the recognition that they deserved as a fighter. If there anybody comes to mind, you can throw it out there, Because when you're in person,
I gotta tell you, I would have to tell you, today, it sucks how, for example, Andy Ruiz, a lot of people think that he got lucky when he beat Anthony Joshua, and therefore a lot of people don't give him the recognition that I feel he deserves.
Right.
He didn't get lucky. I don't care what people say, man. There's no such thing as luck.
Right.
Luck is where preparation and opportunity meet.
Right.
And that's what we had. Preparation, and we got the opportunity, and we shocked the world. So that, I believe that he's a fighter that definitely will go down in history as obviously being the first Mexican-American heavyweight champion of the world. But that definitely people should give him a lot more credibility than they give him, because what he did to Anthony Joshua that night of June 1st, 2019 was unforgettable. Unfortunately, again, what happened after was, there's nothing we can do about that. But that night, it wasn't luck. We didn't get lucky.
Right.
We didn't get lucky. I don't care what anybody says.
I 100% agree with that. I had obviously followed you and Andy before that. I had followed Andy since he had fought in Parker in New Zealand.
Yeah,
I mean, I thought he got ripped off in
that
fight.
Another questionable fight, right?
So when I knew he was fighting Joshua, I said, "Man, are they sure? I hope they're not picking this guy thinking they're going to run through him. It's not going to happen."
Yep, definitely. So that's probably the only fighter that comes to mind right now.
Yeah.
And it's probably Andy Ruiz, where I feel he's. A lot of people are saying a lot of negative things about him because of what happened after, what he did after, and not being disciplined and so forth and so on. I don't want to get into that. But what he did June 1st, 2019, I don't think anybody should forget what he did that night. I think a lot of people, we did the impossible, man. We pulled it off, and we did something that most people didn't think we could do, and so therefore. People should give him a lot more credit than he gets.
Absolutely. And before we go on, guys, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below, the bell notification icon next to it. Smash the like button. Show some love to keep it clean with Manny Robles. It's not easy, guys, getting one of the most successful and busiest trainers in the world, now also a manager, Manny Robles, to do this with me. every week, Monday at 7 p.m. So join us. And if you haven't already, if you want to help us out, help me continue to build the channel and the show and my own promotion, donate to the Super Chat or get your Keep It Clean t-shirts and masks and anything else in the link below. All the proceeds will go back, at least on my end, into continuing to build the channel and the promotion, Manny. So, Manny, we were talking about Lomachenko. You talk about Lomachenko, Manny. You gotta talk about him being a franchise WBC champion, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
And
right.
and
Yeah.
we're talking about that, Manny. We got to bring up the sanctioning bodies, the
Yeah.
belts, and a lot of times people complain about sanctioning bodies and belts and things like that, Manny. But you're actually of the camp that feels that there should be more. There should be more sanctioning bodies, more belts,
Now,
more
maybe
opportunities.
I believe there's a mixture of things that boxing has become so global now. It's globalized. Boxing isn't what it used to be back in the heyday. Now you see more and more fighters, international fighters from different parts of the world. Do you agree?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Right. So therefore, you if in order for some of these fighters to get an opportunity, you do need the advanced sanctioning bodies. You do need those belts, even if they're like, for example, my kid is fighting for the WBO Latino
Right,
belt, right?
right.
A junior title is coming Friday, right? Uh, and that it's a great privilege for him. If you ask my kid about the belt, dude, he feels like he's fighting for the world title,
For
brother.
sure, for sure, for sure.
He's gonna go out there and put it all on the line and make sure he comes home with that belt. Because there's nothing bigger and more important to my kid than that belt.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And what it's gonna do for him, what it's going to do for his family, for where he comes from the town, his barrio, and he comes from, he's gonna be a hero.
Right.
He's gonna be a hero because these people have nothing. They
Yeah.
come from dirt, man. They come from poverty, man. They the way that this kid has a hell of a story, man. So for this kid to be given the opportunity to fight for this belt, and that's one thing a lot of people don't understand. They don't get, that a boxer, you offer him a shot at a title, junior belt. I don't care what it is. The state belt, whatever man, they're willing to put
Oh
everything on
yeah.
the line and risk their own
Oh
life
yeah. Oh
for
yeah.
a belt, for a title, for them to win something, to say I am the champion of something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where the intercontinental, North America, Latino, you name it. So I believe it's important for these boxers to be given the opportunity, with the WBC and the WBO and NAB. I'm sorry, IBF and WBA respectfully. Uh, uh, these are sanctioning bodies that have been around for a long time. The newest being the WBO, and it took them a lot. But I remember back in the. I mean, let's take it way back when the IBF first came out. They're like, we already have the WBC and the WBA. What do you mean IBF? So
Right.
it took them a while to get the credibility that they now have. And then the WBO came in after that, and I remember Oscar de la Hoya being his first world title was the WBO.
Gotcha.
And I remember back then when he won the WBO world title, they didn't give him a whole lot of credibility because it was a WBO.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were also relatively new, a new sanctioning body, and look at them now.
Right.
I mean, if you win a WB, look, Lomachenko was a WBO
Right.
champion.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you look at, they've had some of the best world. Look at Shakur, right? Shakur. Look at Oscar Valdez was a WBO
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
champion.
Yeah.
Some of the best world champions have been WBO champs. IBF, obviously, WBA, and everyone wishes to be the WBC world champion.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
I think that's the most recognized belt or belt there is in in boxing is the WBC. But are they important? Yeah, there are other belts. There's the IBA. There's the IBO that a lot of people in boxing don't really give it a lot of credibility. But as a fighter, if you offer them a fight to fight for the IBA or the IBO or they're hey, listen, they're gonna take
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
You're fighting for a belt, man. You're fighting. Yeah, you're the IBA world champion. Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of recognition, but you're still a world champion. And with that said, you know, look at Anthony Joshua. I think Anthony Joshua has the IBA belt. And Andy also won that belt. And they're not running away from it. He's not. Embrace your belt. Embrace the opportunity to be a world champion. And look, I've always said this, and check this out,
Yeah,
George.
yeah.
The fighter makes the belt. The belt does not make the fighter.
I like that, Manny.
I rest my
You're
case.
right about that, though. You're 100% right about that. Because,
I rest my case.
like you said, if De La Hoya, I mean, that belt was nothing
Right.
until De La Hoya got a hold of it.
Yeah.
Now
There you go.
right now you can't say it's not worth anything if De La Hoya's got it.
You ask Oscar De La Hoya what it meant for him to win his first world title, and back in the day, that belt being the WBO. You ask Oscar what it meant to him to win that belt.
Right, and right.
You can everyone's entitled to their opinion, but if you ask Oscar, it meant the world.
Oh, for sure,
It meant the world,
for sure. And just so people know, I mean, right now Anthony Joshua holds the WBO heavyweight title. It looks like so.
Yeah. WBO, IBF, and WBA.
Yep.
And I believe again it's the IBA belt.
Yeah, I have WBA, IBF, WBO, and IBO is what I see he's got here.
Oh, okay, it's the IBO.
Yeah,
my bad,
yeah.
not the IBO. There you go.
Yes, I mean I agree with you, Manny. Look, I can I can 100% confirm and affirm what you're saying, Manny. Every single event I've ever put together, whether kickboxing or when I was matchmaking for MMA or doing my own MMA shows a couple years back, every single time I offered a fight, almost every time like clockwork, Manny, the question was, is it for a title? Is it for a title? Because these guys will fight. I mean, these guys will fight King Kong if you tell them it's for a belt.
There you go.
So
unless you're a fighter or involved in the sport of boxing or a contact sport like even MMA, then you would know what it means to fight for a belt. With all due respect to full contact sport like MMA or even the UFC, right? Obviously, if you offered, what is it, the UFC belt?
Yeah, the UFC has their own belt. Yeah.
So that's what it's called, right? The UFC World Champion.
Right.
That's what the belt's called. So now here you have a promoter, right? That controls the sport of the MMA sport, right. And he's a promoter, and he also owns the belt.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. What if you have another promoter, coming out of the woodworks, and another MMA promoter. You got UFC, name
Bellator, maybe.
Yeah, okay. And maybe it doesn't have the same credibility that the UFC does have, but nonetheless, if you ask a guy to fight for the Bellator world title, how do you think they're going to turn an opportunity even like that? You think they're going to turn it down?
Right.
No way, brother. No way. And then come up with something else, because eventually, mark my words, you got Bellator now. I'm not too familiar with the word, with the sport, like I said, with all due respect. UFC, Bellator, mark my words, eventually there will be more promoters in the MMA, and because there's not enough.
Right.
There's not enough. Like, again, as I explained it before, I mean, there's not enough belts. Maybe there is, but then the sport is going to grow.
Right.
It's going to become massive, where you will need more promoters, and therefore you will need more belts.
So I think your point is, not so much we're in dire need of more sanctioning bodies, but we're definitely in need of more belts, more opportunities for these guys.
I believe there's got to be a balance. and right now there is a balance in boxing with the belts. Maybe there shouldn't be more belts, but there should be more promoters
Yeah, yeah,
to give boxers an opportunity. There's too many boxers out there that haven't been given the opportunity to be on to sign with big promoters, to sign on get the big fights. So I believe that there's a shortage of promoters, and that there's not enough out there. We mentioned the UFC, Dana White
yeah,
now trying to explore and promote boxing. Great, that'll give more boxers an
yeah,
opportunity.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's a great. I think it's great. I think we need people like that, boxers at that level that understand the sport. You know what I mean? And know and understand the fighter and know what their needs are.
And Manny, I did get permission from CSAC to promote my own boxing events if I wanted to.
Congratulations! Welcome to the world of boxing, George.
I
Congratulations.
love kickboxing, Manny. I'm a little bit worried
Yeah.
about dipping my toes into the boxing world, but I love boxing as well, so you never know. You never know. But I'm
That's
glad you
right.
bring this up, Manny. I'm really glad you bring this up because I just did an interview. And for you guys joining us that don't know, I'm a kickboxing promoter, the only one with a pro license that I know of that's active in the state of California. And
Awesome.
obviously now with COVID, I can't do much. But I just did an interview, Manny, with a guy named Chris Cully, and
Mm.
he is just an absolutely fantastic, talented fighter. He's fought MMA, but his first love is striking, and he has a ton of Muay Thai and kickboxing fights. I think he's even done some amateur boxing before he got into the other combat sports. But it looks like his first love, kickboxing and Muay Thai. And
Mm.
in Muay Thai, Manny, in Muay Thai, there is a WBC belt. There is
Okay.
a WBC belt for Muay Thai, and it's green, just like the boxing one. And
Okay.
Chris told me, Manny, and mind you, Chris is a 34-year-old guy, but he's still,
Mm-hmm.
he's still fighting. He's still looking for opportunities.
Active.
He told me, Manny, that his dream since he was a child, when he started fighting, was to win that green belt, Manny.
The green belt. Yeah. Yeah.
He told
Exactly.
me that was his dream, and the crazy part about it, Manny, and you guys can watch the interview on the channel, is so he actually fought a guy that everyone expected him to lose to, but he knew he would beat the guy. He ends up
Mm-hmm.
knocking the guy out, right?
Mm.
And then unfortunately, the guy who he knocks out gets an opportunity at the WBC belt.
Oh wow.
Right, and now Chris wants to fight the guy who beat him.
Of course, he deserves the opportunity. Absolutely.
I think a fun segue into something we recently dealt with
Mm-hmm.
on the channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you, Manny. I mean, I feel like these belts for these kids, man, it means so much to them to win a belt. It motivates them. It makes them better, right? It makes them better
Yeah,
fighters.
definitely. Yeah. Again, the belt that doesn't make
Yeah,
doesn't make the fighter. The fighter makes the belt. So
right, right.
when you have some of these great champions that are today, and that obviously Lomachenko, you turn around and you see what belt he holds. You look at Teofimo, you turn around and see that he holds the IBF belt. I mean, I'm telling you, and the fighter makes the belt.
For sure. But Manny, do you feel like, and this is a kind of separate topic, but do you feel like once a guy who's already good gets a belt, that a lot of the time it kind of enhances them? Maybe their confidence gets boosted or something to where they become a better fighter? Is that something you've ever noticed?
Oh yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. In most cases, in
Yeah,
most
yeah.
cases, it makes you better. In most cases,
Not all the
you
time.
become a world
Yeah,
champion. You become you hold the belt. Like my kid Friday, I guarantee you that if he, God willing, if he comes back, with that belt, it's definitely going to transform him into a better athlete, a better person, and a better, definitely a better boxer, better athlete, better all around boxer. Definitely, it's going to take him to another level, and with the hopes of someday, getting an opportunity to fight for a world title. That's the max.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get bigger. It doesn't get bigger than that. Get a shot at a world title, and it's something that it's extremely difficult to do. It's not all fighters get an opportunity. We discussed this before, where a lot of fighters out there that sometimes they just don't get the call.
Right. Right.
They don't get ranked. They don't get an opportunity. They don't get as lucky as Andy Reese once did when that was luck.
Yeah.
It was in our turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was Big Baby Miller. Thank you, Big Baby Miller. By the way, it was Big Baby Miller, and that was his opportunity to fight for that world title. And he tested positive.
Manny, and another important thing about what you're saying from a promoter's perspective, right? You mentioned a lot of guys, they never get the call. And a lot of guys, Manny, they never get the call, especially like I feel like in the promotional world, right? Because there are not enough promotions. Like you said, there's nothing going on. Perhaps, a lot of the times it's like a regional issue. Like Manny, I look at Eddie Hearn and what he's been able to do in his region with his fighters in his area in the UK.
That's remarkable. Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible, and I say to myself, as Fighters Rep continues to grow, you were at our last event, Manny. It was my biggest event yet, and I say, thank you for that. And I say, as the promotion continues to grow, and I continue to nurture this incredible amount of talent we have in Southern California, Manny. I mean, you know it better than anybody. We probably have 1,000, potential champions in East LA right now that don't even know it.
Yeah.
So,
right.
As we continue to nurture and grow this thing, and that's part of what this channel is about, and part of what you do is about, part of what I do is about, we continue to create opportunities for these guys, and I think it's so important that we're doing it in this region. And that's just something I wanted to mention because, like you said, so of course you can prepare as hard as you want, but sometimes the opportunity won't come because maybe you're too far. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Look, for you to be the only kickboxing promoter in California, that says a lot.
And not just that, man. I mean, we're talking about...
You're the only one giving these fighters an opportunity.
Right, but
You see what I'm saying? Now do you understand what I'm talking about?
100%.
When I say we need more promoters?
100%.
Yeah, look, in your world, man, we need more kickboxing promoters. To give these kids and these fighters, these boxers, an opportunity to showcase their talent.
Right, and then you look at, the perfect example is your kid that's fighting on Friday, Brandon Valdez, right? I mean, Brandon Valdez was not going to get this opportunity in Colombia, Manny.
Oh, definitely not.
He was not going to get this opportunity in where my family had emigrated to before coming to the United States in Venezuela. He was not going to get it there either. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Manny Pacquiao would be Manny Pacquiao if you've never
Exactly. So, luckily there were promotions willing to move these guys around. But what you're saying is 100,000% correct in that the more promoters there are, especially in different places, the more opportunities.
The land of opportunity, America.
But anyway, Manny, before we continue to look at what people are leaving in the chat here, is there anything else you wanted to kind of say about the belts and the sanctioning bodies?
No, we pretty much covered it all. I hope people understand why it's important to have these belts, have these sanctioning bodies. We may not agree with some of the stuff they do. I'll give you a perfect example. There should only be one world champion, WBA world champion, one WBC world champion, IBF, WBO. But then when you start coming out with the silver belt champion and the gold champion and the super champion, that I don't agree with. That's when I get lost.
Yeah.
How can you have more than one world champion in any weight class?
Right.
There shouldn't be. There shouldn't be more than one champion. That confuses people and say, well, wait a minute. Well, how come there's more than one super heavyweight WBA world champion or any of the other belts?
Yeah.
I don't understand that there should only be one per belt.
Manny, do you think they should maybe do it, and they kind of do this to some extent now, like on a regional level? Like maybe do like if they're gonna do something like that, instead of calling one franchise and one super and one regular, because I agree that that's confusing. Maybe they do
Mm-hmm.
like a regional, or maybe they do like a to give it a different name or something, because
Well, yeah, yeah, but that's not. It's not controlled by the sanctioning
yeah,
bodies. The sanctioning bodies don't control that. That's controlled by the promoters. The promoters have to be willing to work with one another in order for something like that to
yeah,
work. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's true.
It,
That's true.
it won't
That's
work
true.
without. It's not going to work without the promoters, without with the promoters' approval and being able to agree. That's why we don't see some of these big
Yeah, you know,
fights.
you're right. You're
You
right.
know, because it's not the belt. It's not the sanctioning body. It's the promoters again that have to agree on these big
Well, Manny, what do
fights.
you think about a company like the UFC? And obviously, they're not the only MMA show on earth. There are several. There's Bellator. There's one, but the
Yeah.
UFC is the big one, right? They're the big one.
It is a big one, but I got to tell you, and you probably agree with me on this. This is a relatively new
Yeah,
sport
yeah,
where, again, eventually you're going to need more promoters. Again, okay, I guess the UFC pretty much controls the sport,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
They have the total control. Again, when you have a promoter that owns the belt, right? The biggest belt there is, which is a UFC belt, you got control of
Right,
everything. As again, promoters in boxing don't have the Top Rank doesn't own the WBC, or Al Heyman doesn't own the WBA.
of
You
course.
know what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean? Or Golden Boy doesn't own the WBO. They all sanctioning bodies are different, are separate, are a separate entity from the promoters.
Right.
So in order for us to have regional belts and so forth and so on, as you said, or tournaments, the promoters would have to agree on making these fights happen.
Right. No, you're right about that. You're right about that. But I guess my point with the UFC thing, Manny, is it's almost a good thing in a weird way, right? Because you would imagine a huge, massive monopoly almost like the UFC, because it's not really a monopoly, but they're so much better than the rest of their competition that they basically are the only kind of show in town.
Right,
But
right,
I
correct,
guess the
correct.
good part about that, the silver lining is you get the best fighting the best. And
Correct.
whoever owns that UFC belt is considered to be the man in that division. You know what I mean? Or the woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
think about a company becoming that powerful, a promoter becoming that powerful to where, you know, all that other stuff kind of goes out the window. You know what I mean?
Right. You know what? It's supply and demand. I call that supply
Yeah,
and demand.
yeah,
Eventually, supply and demand, man. Like eventually, you're gonna need more
yeah,
promoters,
yeah.
as I said. Right now, yes, the UFC is at the top of the game, but I'm sorry, the sport is only gonna grow
Right,
more.
right.
With that said, you're gonna have more and more talent, more and more fighters, and I believe maybe right the same thing. Remember what I mentioned to you, where back in the day the only belt was the WBA belt, and then the
Yeah,
WBC, and so forth and so on. Well, I believe that boxing's been around a lot longer. You'll all agree with me on this
of
than the
course, of
UFC
course,
or than MMA, right?
of course, of course.
Because it's not the UFC. You call it MMA,
Yeah,
correct? The
yeah, yeah.
sport. Okay, boxing's been around a lot longer than the MMA. So with that said, when it's the MMA is only going to grow more and more, where a lot of these fighters might not be given the opportunity eventually because it's supply and demand. Eventually, you're going to need more and more and more promoters, another promoter step up to the plate, and maybe Bellator is going to grow even
Right,
more.
right.
They're going to get even bigger and stronger, and they'll be able to have more recognition. Remember what I said about the belts as well, where maybe back in the day, again, where when Oscar won the WBO belt, they didn't give him a lot of credibility for winning the WBO belt. Maybe it's the same thing with Bellator, where boxers, or I mean, sorry, fighters, MMA fighters, don't get that credibility that you would with the MMA. I mean, sorry, with the UFC. But eventually, it's only going to grow more. It's only gonna. I believe it's only gonna get more and more popular if it takes off, if it continues to do well, and their recognition is going to get bigger and bigger by the
Yeah.
day. And what if you have a Bellator fighter, their best Bellator fighter versus the best UFC fighters? Then you unify, you can get a unification of both
Right.
belts. You know
Right.
what I mean? But why not?
Yeah,
Why
yeah. I
not?
mean, to be honest, for right now, you never say never, but to be honest, I don't see it ever happening. I think Dana White is the kind of guy that just, and it's not a bad thing, it's just the way he does business. I mean, he wants to be top dog, and if you're not, if you're not with him, you're against him kind of deal. I think that's the way
Oh
he
wow.
looks.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. Like, I don't understand. I don't know. They to that point, to that extent, I don't understand the
Yeah,
sport or how it's
yeah,
ran. But this is just my opinion, and I'm trying to compare it to boxing and what when it takes. Again, the more MMA box fighters you have, the more promoters you're gonna
right, right.
need to give these MMA fighters an opportunity to get their shine.
Right. No, no, totally, totally. I agree, and I do think we'll see more MMA promotions pop up, Manny. Hopefully we get through this pandemic and business gets back to normal. Before
Yes,
we
sir.
continue, Manny, and read some of these comments and questions in the chat, and feel free to leave your comments and questions in the chat, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, join Knucklehead Nation. Hit the bell notification icon. It'll let you know that we're on every Monday, me and Manny, at 7 p.m. for Keep It Clean with Manny Robles, where we talk boxing. We've got a ton of content on this channel, but specifically, me and Manny, we keep it clean every Monday at 7 p.m. And again, anything you guys donate, any shirts you guys buy in the link below, it gets reinvested right back into the channel and the promotion. So, first off, we've got Nick Diaz in the chat, Manny. He says
Thank
Teofimo
you.
is pricing himself out.
Wow. Is he? How much is he
Well, I
asking for?
guess he was supposed to get, I think, around 1.2. I think he wants 2 million now. I'm not exactly sure, but it looks like he's asking for a good chunk of money, whereas Lomachenko is saying he's willing to take less. So that's interesting.
You know what? If it wasn't for the coronavirus, the situation, the pandemic, and the situation that we're all going through right now, I definitely believe you get the 2 million, maybe even
Yeah,
more, because it's Lomachenko. I think that's a multi-million-dollar fight. You're not fighting Joe Blow, from next door. You're fighting Lomachenko, so definitely both fighters deserve to be making millions, man. That's a huge fight.
for sure, for sure. David Castellanos, who was here earlier, Manny, and
Mm.
was sending you saludos. He says Estrellita was one of the best amateur boxers I have ever
You
seen
better
till
believe
this
it.
day.
You
He
better
says
believe it,
Mr.
man.
Chato Robles did one heck of a job in leaving his boxing
And no
tradition
problem.
with his son Manny Robles. What do you think about that, man?
Thank you. I appreciate that. The Estrellita was an incredible fighter back in the day, man. He was a great amateur fighter. He's a good pro. Got fought for a couple of titles. Came up short, but he was there.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was definitely a good fighter. He should have been a world champion. He was incredible. I mean, he beat Ricardo Williams in the amateur. He beat Rocky Juarez in the amateurs, and so many other boxers, man. That were at the top of their game back in the amateur days, and so Estrellita's good, man. He's talented. For those of you out there that knew Estrellita, man, he could fight. He had some moves, man.
Nice, man.
He
Nice.
was super. super gifted, when it came to boxing, man. He was just very
I had
talented.
no idea about Estrellita being
Yeah.
that good, Manny.
I mean, if you look at him now, short and chubby, you may never think he could fight. But man, let me tell you,
Yeah.
I want him on my side on the street fight.
Wow, man. Wow, I love to hear that. I love to hear that.
No, I'm too old for that, man. No, forget I said that. I'm a lover, not a fighter,
Oh
man.
my
Forget I
goodness.
said that.
Um, David Castellanos says Vasquez, El Gallito Castillo, and Javier Mora
Oh yeah,
lived with you as
oh
well,
yeah,
right? They lived with you as well, he
yeah,
said.
yeah. And look, that we had me, my dad, we had Mike Anchondo, we had a badass boxing, stable. My dad, especially, all credit to my dad. I'm not gonna take credit that I don't deserve. I always give my dad all the honor and give him his place in boxing when he had his world champions like Reggie and a few other world champions that he was able to work with and then like as mentioned Martin Castillo. Let me tell you some of the fighters that we worked with. Hector El Cañonero Quiroz, Chivata Flores, Javier Mora, Martin Castillo, Mike Anchondo, Estrellita, his brother Sal, El Avispón. Who else? Yoni Vargas, Reggie Johnson, David Kamau.
Wow, man.
Too
Wow.
many, man. A lot of fighters that that come along the way that we had the honor of working with, and now me.
Yeah, yeah,
Now it's me.
yeah.
I wish my dad was still around. If he was, I knew he'd be right. He'd probably be doing the show instead of me. you know, he'd be right here with me. Going to the gym, working with, making more champions. So I miss my pops, obviously, but everything I am today, I owe to my
Yeah.
dad because he took me to the gym for the first time, and he had the honor of working with all these fighters that I just mentioned, and it doesn't stop. It keeps on
For
going.
sure, and rest in peace to your father, Manny. Of course,
And,
we appreciate what he did to boxing, and his legacy lives on through you, brother. Manny, I wanted to say, big shout out to Neil the Security, Manny, for giving us our first ever super chat donation. A
oh wow,
$5 super chat donation from Neil the
that's
Security says,
right.
thanks for the knowledge as always,
Thank
Manny.
you,
Much love. So
thank you
big
very
shout
much.
out to you, Neil the Security. Thank you for your generosity, brother. And
That's
at
right.
least on my end, it'll get reinvested back into onto the promotion. I'm sure on Manny's
Oh
end, it'll
yeah,
get reinvested back into managing some of these up and coming young fighters that he's got in
appreciate
his
that.
stable.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that, man.
David Castellanos, man, he says, I was in Mexico City at the Romanza Boxing Gym working with Juan
Woo!
Manuel Marquez when Vasquez
Forget
and
about it.
Marquez
Yeah.
2 was about to take place. That's what he said.
Wow. Wow. Yep, I'm telling you. With Nacho Beristain, the great Nacho Beristain. You know why they call it the Romanza? The gym is called the
Why is
Romanza?
that?
Okay. Romanza versus Daniel Zaragoza.
Oh, okay, okay.
And Roman versus is Romanza. Roman is Gilberto
Yeah.
Roman, another fighter that passed away. Roman. And Roman is Daniel Zaragoza.
Oh, okay,
They
okay.
both became world champions, and they were both out of the Nacho Beristain stable. So that is the reason why Romanza is called Romanza.
I love it, Manny. Dropping all this historical knowledge on us too.
Right?
What more do you
Yeah.
guys want? What more do you guys want than
Historical,
this? We got Manny in here.
historical gym, man.
Manny,
Historical
Manny,
coach.
David Castellanos also says Loma is the art of boxing. To beat Loma, one must move before he does. Must be one step ahead of him. Cannot let him set.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the only man that can beat Lomachenko is Lomachenko himself.
And
Father time. He's gonna get old.
and Castellanos follows up with Gabriel Ruelas was never the same after he killed his opponent in the boxing match.
Jimmy Garcia. Yep. Yep. He's never the same.
Wow, man.
But another friend, great friend, Gabriel and Rafael Ruelas, two good friends of mine, and especially Rafael. You had the honor and the privilege of working with Rafael Ruelas in the later part of his career, my dad and I, and great guy, great guy. Another great world champion. They both two brothers from the valley from the 818 to become world champions, man. So
For sure, for sure. Manny, we've got Raw Dog in here. He says Quig versus Valdez was excellent. Can you explain?
oh
Can
man, what a fight that was!
He
Wow.
says, can you explain the experience? I was in the crowd. He was in the crowd, he says.
An unforgettable experience. I mean, it was a great fight. It just showed you what Oscar was all about. Any other fighter would have quit, would have said no more, but he said no. I'm gonna keep going, and he did a great job. I mean, what an incredible fight versus Scott Quigg, and they both went at it, and obviously Oscar was a better fighter at the end of the night. He was declared a winner, clear winner in my eyes. And it was a great fight, man. The huge storm fell that day. It was raining all day long, and so a lot of people missed the fight because it was
Yeah,
outdoors,
yeah.
and so a lot of people decided not to attend. Obviously, they didn't want to get wet. But for the people that were there, they're very fortunate, man. It was a historical night because what Oscar did that night put up a great fight, one of the best fights in boxing in a long time. Should have been the fight of the year in my opinion. And it's incredible, incredible. What Oscar did that night, man. I never seen anything like it. To fight with a broken jaw and to have the determination that he had is you got to be born with that, man. You can't teach that.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely can't teach it, and Oscar just has it.
That was some serious
Warrior.
that was some serious warrior spirit on display in that fight, Manny.
Absolutely.
Um, David Castellanos says the very best fight for me was Salvador Sanchez versus Wilfredo Gomez, is what he says.
Oh, yeah. Well, it wasn't a great fight because it was. I mean, it was a great fight for what it meant. It was a historical night for Mexican boxing because here he fought someone like Wilfredo that was undefeated, all wins, all knockouts, had a big mouth, ran his mouth, and just wouldn't stop talking his smack to Salvador Sanchez, gave him a hard time, and Salvador Sanchez came in there and just beat the shit out of Wilfredo, and knocked him out in the eighth round, if I'm not mistaken. And so it was a one-sided fight. It was never a close fight. Again, a great fight would be a back and forth fight. You know what I mean? They both went at it, but it was great for what it meant. And that's my opinion. For what it meant, and the Puerto Rican boxing versus Mexican boxing, and
The heat. It was the heat between them, man.
the heat, yeah, between the two countries. With all due respect to the Puerto Rican boxers and the island, man, and great people, but when it comes to boxing, man, they these guys fight.
Oh yeah.
They fight
Oh
like
yeah. Oh yeah.
like somebody's trying to take their lunch money from them. Yeah, it was a great, remarkable night, man. And Salvador Sanchez is probably my favorite fighter of all time. With the fight with Danny Little and Lopez, both fights to me were something else. When he beat Asuma Nelson,
Wow, man.
that was just a kid, man. That was just a kid, but I'm telling you, man, Salvador Sanchez was definitely a fighter that was way ahead of his time.
What a shame to lose him at such a young age, Manny. That guy was incredible.
You know what? Let me tell you something. Chavez is lucky that Salvador Sanchez is not around any longer because if they would have fought, I would have taken Salvador Sanchez out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think he was gifted. He was something special. Um, Hawker's Mustang is in here. He says, "What's up, Fighters Rep? What's up, Hawker? Appreciate you being in here, brother." He says, "I also agree with Manny once again," and then he says, "That's right. UFC has been making some great matches lately. Absolutely. I mean, UFC, Manny, they've been over and over again, just putting the best to fight the
Yeah,
best. So
that's
it's
awesome.
been really good, Manny.
It's easy. It's easier when you control the
Yeah,
sport and you have all the top
right,
athletes.
right, right.
But in boxing, again, it's a different business. It's a different sport because here you have top rank with some of the best athletes, and then you have PVC and Golden Boy, and now Eddie Hearn. You know what I mean? So now they got to come together and agree on these fights taking place.
For sure,
These great
for
fights,
sure. Yeah,
matching up their
yeah. I mean,
fighters.
that's again, that's kind of the gift and the curse, right, Manny? If you kind of monopolize the sport, you can also
Right.
control
Right.
it enough for us to get the best fights. You know, so it's kind of
Yes, yes, sir. You can count on us watching these great fights on UFC fights. But again, going back to what we spoke about earlier, promoters would have to come to an agreement to have these fights made.
for sure. Paco Imero X3 is in here. What's up, Paco Imero? He says, Manny, why do you think the lighter weights don't get much attention? The battle for ascendancy between Gallo Estrada, Chocolatito, Inoue, etc.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's there. I think it's there. I think just the fans, the hardcore fans, like the gentleman just mentioned right now, Gallo Estrada, Chocolatito, and now Inoue, and some of these other top flyweights, man, or they're incredible fighters. And I know all about it, and I can't wait to see these fights happen. You know what I mean? You just have to, you got to get involved, and you got to ask for the best fights to happen. And I know that is now with Top Rank, so they're going to do good things by this guy, I believe. And then now you have Chocolatito becoming a world champion once again, and Gallo Estrada is a remarkable fighter, winning the WBC belt versus I can't pronounce his name, man, out of the Asia, that beat
Oh, yeah,
Chocolatito.
no, for,
That knocked out
yeah,
Chocolatito.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
I was there actually at that fight at the Stud
yeah,
Hub. I mean, but these guys on a given night, anybody can beat anybody. That's how evenly matched. That's how even as far as talent, they're right there. I think is a man to beat.
yeah, yeah.
I think is definitely pound for pound one of the best
I
fighters in the
agree.
world.
I
So
agree.
can't wait to see this
I agree
fight.
with you on that one, Manny. Paco Imero follows up that question and says, also, is Ryan Garcia shooting himself in the foot right now? He's trying to take over Mexican holidays, but he's the darkest white person I've ever seen. Cultural appropriation.
I think at this time, Ryan is his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
He's got to be careful. He's got to surround himself with the right people, get the right advice, get people that understand the sport. You cannot go against your promoter, man. You're not gonna win that battle. Never. You got to pick your fights, man. Pick your battles. That my dad used to tell me when I was growing up. You better never pick your battles, boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because some fights you can't win.
Right. Right. Right.
You can't win, and this is a fight Ryan cannot win versus his promoter. Forget about
Stupid,
it, man. You're not gonna
stupid.
win
Yeah,
this
I
fight.
think it's stupid too. And
Yeah.
Paco Imero, we agree with you 100%, brother, that this guy should not be fighting with his promoter. And like we said, if he wasn't happy, he shouldn't have re-signed.
Yeah, you should have resigned. You're not bigger than the sport, my
Yeah,
friend. You're not bigger than boxing. You're not bigger than the promoter. Promoter pays signs your check, bro.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
Paco Imero also says, Manny, you forgot about my homeboy from the Pacoima Flats, the one and
What's
only
that? Oh,
schoolboy Bobby Chacon. He used to train
oh
a couple.
man, Bobby Chacon,
He
man.
says he used to.
Bobby Chacon, man. Another Danny Red Lopez, Bobby
Yeah,
Chacon.
yeah.
I mentioned Albert Davila. Danny Red Lopez was an incredible fighter. Bobby Chacon, man, I had the honor and the privilege of meeting Bobby and became his friend. Every time I see Bobby, man, Bobby remind me a lot of Johnny Tapia.
Yeah, yeah.
People love Johnny. People love Bobby. Everywhere he went, every place he showed up in, every boxing, sporting event he was ever at, people would they loved Bobby, and Bobby loved everyone.
Yeah.
Showed nothing but love towards everyone, and never denied anyone a picture, an autograph. sit down with you and talk to you. And he was an incredible champion, an incredible person, an ambassador to boxing.
Paco Imero says he used to train a couple of my older cousins in a youth in trouble program with Blinky Rodriguez.
Yeah, there you go, Blinky. Yeah, yeah.
So,
I met Blinky's sister. They were part of. They were like MMA. They believe they had a kickboxing, not MMA, kickboxing gym in the valley out there in North Hollywood.
yeah.
That I visited on several occasions, and I used to actually train there. A couple, some people there, and way back in the heyday. And so, yeah, man, definitely. But Bobby Chacon, man, my respects goes out to Bobby. May so rest in peace. Obviously, he passed away as well. We lost a lot of great people, man, and Bobby is one of them.
Yeah.
Bobby's an incredible person, incredible human being.
Well, Manny, another big shout out to the very generous Neil the Security sending us another $5 donation. Thank you so much, Neil. I
Keep it up,
appreciate
baby.
you, man.
Keep it up. Thank you.
We appreciate
That's
you very
right.
much for that, Neil. Especially now when times are pretty slow for everybody. So every little bit is greatly appreciated.
How about my people at Foxhound? How about my friend
Oh
George?
my
I gotta send him
goodness,
a
man! I
shout out.
almost forgot. Yeah,
Yeah.
big shout
Hey,
out.
listen, man. George, thank you very much, man. Thank you for looking out for my boxers. I really appreciate what you've done, and looking anything I can do to support Foxhound, let me know, man.
For sure, and what Manny's talking about, guys, is our sponsor, who he just reminded me to shout out, Foxhound Fuel. It's all natural, effective, specific supplements. Manny designed just for fighters. They're not only sponsoring Fighters Rep and our fighters, they've also sponsored your fighters as well with some supplements, and it's all fantastic stuff. It's all natural. It doesn't give you the jitters and mess you up. They've got recovery, they've got hydration, and they've got pre-workout. So definitely check them out in the link below. And if you type in Fighters Rep 15 at checkout, you get 15% off. And also, if you guys want to donate, want to get something back, you could always buy some of the gear we have in the links below. Of course, you'll get yourself a shirt, a Keep It Clean shirt, or Fighters Rep shirt, or anything else you could purchase in the links below. Freddie Mendez, Manny, asks, what's the strangest or wildest thing you have heard or seen a boxer do during training camp in order to gain an edge? An example is Marquez drinking his own urine in preparation for Mayweather.
Oh man, I've never seen anything like that. Oh no. What's the strangest thing? Not really. I mean, every fighter's different. Some fighters like to talk. Some fighters don't like to talk at all. Don't like to be bothered with, especially when they're losing weight, they're dropping weight, and they can't eat. So if you don't eat, you get in a bad mood. So imagine you don't eat one day, you get in a bad mood. Imagine fighters not being able to eat the way they want to, for days on end before a fight. It's just that's probably as strange as it's gotten. Where fighters just, you one day you find yourself dealing with a fighter that's different. That's obviously gets in a bad mood or becomes moody or doesn't like to talk for. But from a coach's perspective, you give them their space.
Yeah.
They want to talk, you talk. You talk to them. If they don't want to talk, then you don't talk. They pretty much control the atmosphere. That way, you try to make them feel as comfortable as possible.
Right. Right.
So it gets hard. It gets difficult, especially in the week of the fight. It gets pretty. Unless you're a heavyweight. But other than that, it gets pretty. It's pretty serious.
Yeah.
But in a fight though, I've seen a boxer abandon the ring in the middle of the fight.
We have seen that. We have.
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah,
twice.
A couple times. Yeah.
One during a fight, and I was obviously at the Great Western Forum. I was there, where a fighter just decided to abandon the ring.
Yeah.
He steps out of the ring and he runs back into the locker room. We were like, "What the hell's going on?" I've only experienced that once. I've only seen that once. The second time, Minnesota, I think a lot of people saw this fight, but I believe it was on Fox, where the fighter goes in the ring, he gets introduced, and the moment the bell rings, he jumps out of the ring and he just walks out.
Yeah.
walks back into the locker room. Everybody's like, "What's going on?" That's probably the strangest two things I've ever seen in boxing.
Yeah, we've seen that. I remember. I don't remember who it was, but I remember
Right.
seeing that. The strangest thing I've seen before a fight, Manny, that just pops into my head. I mean, I can't really think of anything, but so at Fighters Rep 5, Manny, this was our first ever striking event. Before that, I was doing MMA shows, and last year, Manny, I started with the kickboxing and decided that
Mm.
that's what we're gonna do from here on out. At Fighters Rep 5, Manny, we were at weigh-ins, and a fighter sat down and opened up this box, and it was filled, Manny, with
Yeah.
paint brushes and I don't know what else. And the guy started painting right there at the weigh-in, and I just
Are
thought,
you wild?
I
Yeah.
just thought
Yeah.
that was so
That's the
interesting, Manny.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so I
right.
guess that's what he used to kind of get in the zone, and hey,
Right.
whatever works for you. You
Let
know
me
what I
paint the
mean?
Mona Lisa.
Yeah. So anyway, Paco Imero says, yeah, both Bobby and Blinky lost children to gang violence. Bobby Jr. and Sonny Rodriguez, rest in peace. Que viva mi raza mexicana. I love this channel. We love you too, brother, and may they rest in peace. Y que viva la raza for sure, Manny.
That's right. Viva la raza.
Yeah, brother. Even me, Manny. I'm ethnically an Árabe, but my family went to
Hey, good raza to
Mexico.
me, man.
My
Good raza to me.
Yeah, my family went to Mexico before coming to the United States,
That's
so
right.
I gotta represent. Paco
That's
Imero
right.
says, I know I ask a lot of stupid questions, but as an amateur fighter, I've always conjectured pre-workout was banned in pro fighting. Am I wrong, or can I go up zooted on pre-workout in the ring?
I mean, it helps. It helps. Some fighters, they need it.
Yeah,
I think it's great, especially right now while they're losing weight. They're dropping fighters that are getting ready for a fight and are dropping weight. You need these type of supplements to maintain a balance. I think it's necessary, especially
yeah.
again, particularly when you're dropping weight. So you need these type of supplements. Foxhound fuel again, guys, to keep you going. You know, it's just like a machine. Like a car. You got to give it gas.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
don't give it gas, it's not gonna run. It's the same thing with athletes.
And
You
Paco
gotta give it
Imero,
gas.
I can tell you as a promoter, as far as I know, I mean, it's absolutely not banned, especially the pre-workout that Foxhound kind of designs. It's
Yeah.
typically like green tea extract and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. It's kind of like stuff to get your body going, your nervous system moving, like
Yeah.
caffeine and stuff like that.
I understand where Paco's coming from because back in the heyday,
Yeah.
there's no such thing. There's no
Right,
such thing
right,
as
right.
supplements and stuff, or a lot of these new modern, supplements nowadays. Even strength and conditioning coaches were unheard of back in the day, where pretty much it was all boxing. You run, you go to the gym, you work out, you get ready for a fight, and that was it. So nowadays, you know, it's important. Evolution. The evolution of boxing. It's definitely different from back in the day.
For sure, for sure. But yeah, I mean, definitely, it's no longer banned. I know, Manny, they were drug testing
Right.
the guys that fought for us. So as long as it doesn't have anything illegal in it, Paco Imero, you're good. You're good.
We're definitely not taking anything illegal in
Yeah.
boxing, but especially now, you get tested
Oh yeah.
before and
Oh
after
yeah.
a fight. So or Vada coming to the gym without, or coming to your home, knocking on your door without any notice. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Especially if you're fighting for a world title. Hello, we're here to test you.
Yeah. I mean,
So
even
you
the
can,
commission,
but you can't hide.
even the commission here tests you, man. CSAC, the
Yeah,
California State Athletic
yeah,
Commission. I mean, that's who we had to go through to do our kickboxing
that's right.
events. It's the same commission that everybody has to go through,
One one of the
whether it's
one of the
boxing or
strictest
whatever.
one of the strictest best boxing commissions in the world. I got to tell you,
I
this
love to hear
California
that.
State Athletic Commission, very very good, very strict, very legit. Very professional.
I love him. Big shout out to Andy Foster, Manny, the head of the
Yeah.
California State
Big
Athletic
shout out to
Commission.
my good friend Jack Reese, one of the best referees, representing the state of California, one of the best referees in boxing.
There you go. Oh, speaking of which, now that you're doing that, Manny, I believe there's a boxing show coming up here in California where I think Jack Reese is going to work it. But it's my understanding that the referee who referees all the fighters rep events, all our kickboxing events, Dan
Yeah.
Bam Bam Stell,
Uh-huh.
who obviously he's also refereed major boxing events as well. It looks like they're both going to be working on this upcoming
Okay.
boxing event in California. So shout out to
Uh-huh.
Bam Bam, Manny, one of the best people I've ever met in the fight game. He's
Right
the
on.
co-founder of the IKF, which is the International Kickboxing Federation. He's a referee, and he was a 17-0 with 15 knockouts kickboxer, Manny, back in the day.
Great
So
record.
the guy's a
Great
beast.
record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, Manny, we have in the chat George Estrada. He says, "What's up, guys?" What's up back to you, George? And that's pretty much all we have
Okay.
for this evening, Manny. We almost went 2 hours today. I apologize to your wife. I apologize to your family.
Yeah, right on. It's okay.
Oh my goodness, Manny. See, we can't be drinking coffee before these
Yeah,
things, bro.
right? Coffee today. Yeah, I'm wide awake.
But anyway,
Yeah,
knuckleheads, wow, we appreciate you guys joining us very much. Neil, the security, again, we appreciate your generosity. Guys, tune into the channel. I actually released Gabe Silva's highlight today, performance of the night. That's Anderson Silva's son. He fought for us not too long ago.
Oh, wow.
And Manny actually got to see him and thought he was a good
Very
fighter.
talented fighter, man. I was impressed with this kid. Super talented.
Yeah.
Man, he could definitely be a boxer.
Yeah, so we put his highlight, we put his performance of the night highlight up today, Manny. So if you guys want to check that out, you can. And definitely tune in with me and Manny every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be talking about boxing. And you can follow Manny on Instagram right there at the bottom of your screen at manuel.boxing, or his management company right there on his shirt at LBA Legends. Knuckleheads, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Manny, any parting words for the Knuckleheads?
We will see you next week, and hopefully my boy Brandon Valdez will come home with that belt. God willing.
God willing, Manny, we'll be talking to you about that on Monday. Guys,
Yes,
thank you so much for joining us. And until next Monday at 7 p.m., keep it clean. We're out of here.